Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Early Life Crisis podcast, episode 5. We've made it 5 episodes somehow. And today is a very, very special episode because we have our first ever guest, Marcus Chan. Marcus, you want to introduce
The
yourself?
other Marcus.
Yes, I am the other Marcus. The lesser Marcus, as I like to say.
No. We're equals.
This is going to get really confusing.
Yeah.
The two Mark, we need different names for you both.
I'm not saying Mr. Chan because last time I said that, someone thought I was racist.
That's a great
Like,
start.
Nah, genuinely, Marcus. Yeah, it was on film set, and I was just like, "Oh, you can call me
Exactly.
Mr. Chan." And this guy Owen, he thought I was being racist.
See, this is a really good way to distinguish, workplace
Yeah,
banter
sorry.
and relationships on
Yeah,
set.
yeah.
And...
Nah, but obviously, it was like that wasn't in a racial like.
Oh no, that is a nickname of mine. Don't worry.
Well, it is
I
your
personally
second
take
name,
it.
so-
It's definitely my second
Well,
name, and I take no.
we had it
offense to
on Gia's film. We had it on the clapperboard. It wrote Mr. Chan on it.
Yes.
That's
Exactly.
your
So if
on-set
anything,
nickname.
this was just confirmation that I wasn't racist.
Exactly.
Yeah, thanks
Exactly.
for-
It's fine.
thank you.
I am a Mister, and my second name is Chan, so I take no.
Yeah, I'm
offense
glad
with
we
this.
we cleared up
Alright,
that Marcus is
Anyway,
okay.
yeah, carry on. Sorry.
Okay, well, Marcus, you want to introduce
Do you
yourself?
wanna
What do you do in filmmaking? Who you are and how you know us and all that stuff.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. So I guess how do I even start? I went to university as well to do filmmaking. I didn't go to the same school as Kieran, Marcus, and Luke did. I went to another one. It was pretty alright, but I guess it was there where I realized that I mainly wanted to do cinematography. Try to become a director of photography, or to be honest, I kind of like a lot of the sub roles in that department, like being a first or second AC, and I even like doing lighting, so being a gaffer as well. That's kind of my main interest. But to be honest, before I went to university, I actually did want to be a director, which I less want to be now. But I think because of that initial spark of what I wanted to do, I definitely still have some yearning and inclinations to do like script writing and stuff and coming up with stories. So I guess whenever I'm not working on a specific production, or maybe necessarily I don't need to always be studying camera work, I do like to write as well, write screenplays. That's kind of my main thing. But yeah, I met these guys because me and Kieran, I don't know if he's talked about it in a previous episode yet, but we worked at a cinema together.
Yeah, and then the other Marcus came and replaced you
Yeah,
as the
big
new
up
Marcus.
Cineworld.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
All
big,
three of us worked at Cineworld.
exactly.
Yeah,
We all
we-
worked at
we did.
Cineworld.
I wish I worked when you worked there. To be fair, that'd been so.
Oh, that would have been so
Yeah,
fun.
that was a crazy era. But we worked at a cinema together, and weirdly enough, I found this place to be more of a useful networking space
Honestly.
than university was, which is strange
Yeah.
because
I've said that before as well. I
Yeah.
genuinely met like so many people. I got half the films I've worked on have been because of like me and you at Cineworld rather than like for any other
100%.
reason.
And Kieran and Marcus are not the only people I've met at
Yeah.
Cineworld who are also great filmmakers and people.
Shout out to Lucy.
Exactly, Lucy, Harry as well.
Yeah.
Great collaborators. Some other people who I haven't actually worked with before, but would love to work with eventually as well. Are all in that kind of space, and yeah, weirdly enough, found way more passionate and driven filmmakers at at a cinema working,
Yeah.
part time or full time than I did at my own university. Not to say that I didn't meet great people at my university, but I definitely found that was more of a great space. And because I met Karen, I eventually got to meet Luke and Marcus, who are also great filmmakers in their own right because they go to the same university. But I guess you guys are like the only ones that like know each other this well from your own unis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, a lot of connections we made were through Kieran, through Cineworld.
Yeah.
So, like, we're also kind of in the same boat as you.
Well, and a lot of my
more
connections. A lot of my connections are through Marcus from this
Yeah.
one party he invited us to like 3 years ago. Yeah, and that's how I've done most of my films. So that
Mhm.
was you going to uni actually helped me out quite a lot
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, I guess.
And now,
Yeah,
now we live together. You're literally in the next room to me, right?
I am in the next room to you. Yes, we do
Yeah,
live together now. It's
crazy.
just weird how life works. You know, you and the old
Yeah,
old Marcus, you and other Marcus used to live together, and
yeah.
now we
Indeed.
do. Yeah,
I can only live with people called
That's how
Marcus.
good the
It's
name
just a rule I've
Marcus
got.
is, you
Yeah,
know.
that's a
Like,
fact. That is a
yeah.
fact.
we've set such a
And
standard that
you're
Kieran
both
has to live with Marcus.
and you're both DOPs as well. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
It's just something. It's something in the name.
Yeah,
What can I say? Very talented name, if I may say.
yeah. Can't argue
Obviously,
with
Marcus Rashford.
Oh,
Come on.
yeah, I'm a United fan, and even then, I wouldn't go that far for him.
Okay.
that. All right. Well, one of the first questions that I've got that I wanna hear about is I want to know what was one of the first things that you can point to that like got you into film, like proper thinking like I want to do this as a career. Like what are some of these early projects that you worked on that kind of made you think like I want to be a filmmaker, or was it
Mm,
something else other than the project? Like it's just always been a part of you, or
yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
was it?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think in terms of what was the kind of first spawn of it all, why I even became a thing in my head, I guess, was just that I think I was in year 8. Yeah, I definitely was in year 8, and I knew I had to pick my GCSEs at the time, and uh, film studies was one of those I was like kind of interested in, but at that time I didn't know how much I would love it or how much I was in love with watching films or making films yet. So I think I just spent that Easter holidays just for some reason, I don't know, when you're a kid you just I don't know. I just thought I had a lot of time on my hand for the Easter, so I just decided to watch a bunch of films. I think the first one I watched was I don't think I definitely know the first one I watched was Easy A, which kind of kickstarted just me watching a bunch of Emma Stone films, to be honest. And it was all cool and fun and stuff like that. But none of those really made me want to make films yet. It was just I was just having a good time watching films. But it wasn't until I eventually got to watch The Perks of Being a Wallflower where I think my
Yes.
whole perception changed. Because at the time, well, I just like to say I love that film to death, and I think it's such an important film um, about youth and mental health. And but I don't think as a 12-year-old I quite knew um, or could relate to most of the things that were happening in that film. Yet it had such a profound effect on me, an emotional effect on me, and I think that was the first time I truly realized the impact of film, whether you could relate or not relate to the subject that you're watching. I think in that that's when I finally realized was like I could actually feel a lot of emotions even on things I couldn't quite relate to, and I thought that was quite powerful. And then I just kept spending the rest of the holidays watching films, and then by the end of it, when I came back to school, I realized, oh, I'm interested in doing this, so I picked it as a GCSE. And
Your mic's got a bit quiet at the
oh,
moment.
is it gonna go? Sorry, I'll
There you
go a
go.
bit closer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I picked it as a GCSE in film studies, and then when I did that, I just kind of went with it. I loved it as a subject. I had an amazing teacher. Shout out to Mr. Meacham, who taught the subject so passionately, and it was just really engaging. And I just kind of loved it then, and decided to then do it for A levels, and then like you've heard now, I did it for university, and yeah, just had such a great time. And to answer kind of like the first or second part of that question, I forgot which one came first, and when I realized maybe I could do it. Um, I spent the first 2 years making a film for my final year projects, and my first year one I actually had a lot of fun with, and that's when I first was like the pure cinematographer role, and that was a lot of fun. That was probably my first instinct of like, maybe I can just prefer doing camera work other than just thinking about being a director, because I seem to enjoy it just as much as probably anything else that I'd done at that point. And to be honest, I was a director for the second year film, and I didn't have as much fun doing that at all. And so then when that happened, I was a bit down on myself, if anything. So I was like, you know what, for third year, I'll try my best and see what I'd like to do. But then COVID hit, so then that kind of delayed a lot of my creative juices, my kind of I don't know, my kind of inspiration to do stuff and so forth. I actually repeated a year because I think I was just that lazy and wasn't quite enjoying my time as much, especially post COVID. But when I did my retake year, I was like, I'm not gonna waste my time anymore, waste my money and energy. Let me actually try and make something of myself. So I decided to come up with a kung fu martial arts film just to help spark myself again. And I managed to meet a bunch of great people on my course that helped me with that film. And I decided I wanted to be director of photography again. So I wanted to be a cinematographer for that project. Even though I came up with the idea, I remembered how much I enjoyed it on the first film I did and how little I enjoyed doing directing on the second year film. And it wasn't, to be honest, until this film I worked on this project where I really realized that, okay, this is clearly what I want to do. I found my love for filmmaking again, and this is definitely what I want to do for the rest of my life. And it kind of proved to me that I wasn't just kind of faking it, and was something that I've always wanted to do as a little kid, ever since I watched Perks of Being a Wallflower. So
So I'm just wondering what like drew you towards really cinematography as opposed to directing. What negative aspects of directing were you kind of pushed away by, and what really drew you to the cinematography role, and how did that make you feel more comfortable and more fully realized in that role?
yeah, that's a great question. I think mainly it was I think when everyone decides they want to do this, maybe all of us have most of us will probably have an aspiration of becoming a director mainly. But that being said, it is a lot of responsibility to become a director. You have to fill so many shoes. You have to be on top of everything. Your idea has to be so well communicated to the rest of your team, and so forth. It's a lot of stress and a lot of pressure to put on yourself to make something work. So I think what happened was that when I did cinematography, I realized that I could just be a specialist at one aspect of filmmaking, but still have the kind of same love for it. It's hard to describe, but I guess I realized I really valued the importance of visuals and how much that means to films. I think this is a medium in which we have a literal thing called a moving image helping us tell our stories. It's not quite like music or paintings or photography. We literally have a moving image to help express ourselves. So I just really love that idea of it, and I guess also another thing was just that learning about it, learning the technical aspects of it, learning the creative aspects of it came easier to me personally.
Yeah.
Maybe I think it's because I did realize I enjoyed it that much and it was important to me. That maybe it was just a lot easier for me to try to learn these things. So when I did do that, I realized that it didn't seem as much effort to engage with that side of filmmaking. Whereas directing is, like I said earlier, is just a lot of shoes to fill, a lot of people to not let down, um, and all that sake. And I guess, uh, just personally speaking, I was just more confident in being able to nail one aspect of filmmaking rather than trying to um, be, I guess, like a director, like a governor of this creative idea that you have that you need to communicate to everybody. I think I felt way more comfortable being in a sort of zone or element in just camera work and just run with that and be confident in my skills in that and my creative decisions in that rather than thinking about having to manage actors, uh, understanding set locations, understanding crew, uh, and so forth. I think that's mainly why I love it.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like a lot of people do start off wanting to be a director, and then start to narrow it down into finding what they enjoy the most. Which I guess for you, cinematography,
Yeah.
which again is a very important part of filmmaking. I'm sure. I mean, yeah, me and Luke have probably had the same thing, except we're honing in more on writing, but then just
Yeah.
directing is fun, just a lot more pressure.
Yeah, that was my point as well. Like, it's not like my kind of own personal journey of what I come to is the only correct way, right? Like, a lot of people do want to be directors and still have that drive to want to do that, and that's so
Mm.
I think my whole main point is that it's super commendable with anybody that wants to do that. I personally find it really difficult um, to have that level of concentration and that just level of governing like creativity. It's really impressive.
But you directed a film recently, which is the one only film that I've made that I've talked about on the podcast before since coming back to Brighton, which we shot in our place,
Yes.
and that was you. How was that? Because that was your first time directing, and probably since second year.
Yeah. So obviously everything before uni I directed, but it was
Mm.
different. It wasn't quite the same level of production when you're doing it at that
Yeah,
age. But yes, it was the first one I directed since then, and I think mainly it was because I wrote the script, so I felt
yeah.
a level of need to maybe direct it. And it's such a simple script, so I was just like, I don't want to bother any of my directing friends to try to direct this one. But I
And you
was
also didn't give up being DOP. You
yes,
still DOP
exactly.
the whole thing.
I
Yeah,
still was the main DP
yeah,
cinematographer for as well, and doing it like that, I put a lot of stress on myself, and
yeah.
I think I realized being both the director and DP, I could see which part I liked more. Especially this being the first project I directed since second year. So there would have been a good oh gosh, how old am I? It would have been a good 4 year gap from when I last directed, and yeah, I've realized that even working on that, I really did enjoy it. And it was a great experience, and it was mainly because of the people that helped with it, like Luke, Kieran, who managed to be a part of the set as well. It was so fantastic, and shout outs to Harry and Gio and Lucy as well for
I
helping that.
wanna go back to that first
Mhm.
film, your third year film.
Mhm.
Because I find that really interesting. You just said there you were okay with kind of giving the directing position
Mhm.
off to someone else, despite the fact you were the one that came up with the idea. How did that work? Because I know for me and I've talked to Kieran about this before, we're quite possessive over our creations and our ideas,
That was the
and I
first
don't like
episode.
giving stuff away. Yeah,
That's all right.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's very much a reason why I like directing, despite the fact that I, again, like mash more with screenwriting. But how was that like giving that away, and how did you work with the director as the DOP, as almost like someone working for the director, but then also this position where you feel a lot more intimately involved within the film because it's kind of your baby, it's your creation. And how did that work? And
Yeah,
compared to when you directed this most recent film, where you did both roles.
yeah. So, first off, that film, Red Envelope, which was the kung fu martial arts film, was way more demanding than
Mm.
the one I just did recently. So that's one thing to point out. It was a literal action kung fu martial arts film. So it was really demanding, and
You have massive time restraints and
yeah,
stuff.
exactly. Yeah, defo expensive locations, paid actors and stuff like that. It was so. I think when I got to that point, I just realized I was a lot stronger with cinematography than I was at directing, and kind of like going back to what I was saying before and why I'm just kind of able to, uh, I guess, give control to another director over an idea of mine. It's just trust at the end of the day, and also just the level of confidence you have within yourself. I think the reason why I could even do that at that point in time was because I trusted myself more with cinematography, or I should say, I didn't trust as much, or I didn't trust anyone else to do cinematography. I could trust somebody else to do directing, if that makes
Yeah.
sense, because I knew I wasn't as strong in that sense, and I could kind of give the reins away. But at the end of the day, it's how much collaboration and communication you're willing to have with somebody if you are kind of giving the reins over per se into
Yeah.
the directing role. I worked with another amazing collaborator of all of ours called Vili, who is just a
Yeah.
wonderful writer and
Shout
director.
out to the
Yeah, he's truly brilliant, and I was able to give it away because I just trusted him that he could do a really
well,
great job.
I guess it's like Luke was saying for us, it's like when we write a script, we come up with an idea, we struggle to give away the directing rights, but because you're so like passionate about cinematography, for you it would be even harder to give away like the
Yeah, I
cinematography
guess
on
that
the
is a
camera.
that is a funny way to put it. I guess it would be
Yeah,
the same for you guys, but it's just for me, it would be the cinematography
yeah,
role that
yeah,
I'm less likely to give away for some reason.
yeah,
And but it was a really cool experience. I think that did help me realize that I can do that. You know, I can let someone have creative control over something that I came up with.
yeah.
It's just again a level of trust you have, and subsequently, I've even wrote scripts that I know I'm gonna let others
Yeah,
direct in the future.
yeah. It's good you figured that out because you're a great writer, if I do say so. And there's a lot of scripts that you're probably gonna have to give up now, and it's good that
Yeah.
you're able to do that
Y-
because that would be a lot of directing.
yes, exactly. That's what I realized. It was so this last one on which I did both. I think it was just more of a confirmation to myself in the end that like I kind of have to choose one or the other. But clearly, I'm just leaning towards cinematography. And if I think about it, in retrospect, I think I did enjoy the whole cinematography side of it rather than the directing side of it. Even though I wrote it and I really did enjoy that experience, um, maybe it's just my sensibilities and what I'm confident in. I think it again, it's just the whole idea of the pressure and the stress of being that much in control, and it just feels like a lot more responsibilities fall on your shoulders as a director. Whereas cinematography, you can just be kind of like willy nilly, just think about camera settings, and that's all you have to think about. And yeah, you can still like mess up a lot, you know, and stuff like that. You know, it's the visual element. You know, if you mess it up, then you've messed up the visuals for the entire thing. But I guess just being able to just think about that and concentrate on that rather than so many aspects of everything else, just suits better to my kind of creative process.
Yeah. I do want to ask as well. For uni as a whole, I know Red Envelope was obviously really important to you at uni, and doing that project probably helped you quite a lot in where you are today. But what would you? I know you didn't have the best time as a whole at uni, so I wanted to ask, like overall, do you think you would regret the experience of going to uni, and like what? If there's someone listening to the podcast that are in a similar like situation where they're deciding whether they should go to university, like what would be your advice to them? Do you think like would you recommend to someone else to go to uni, or
I,
was it worth it?
That's such an interesting question. It's something I've talked about before, but I guess I haven't thought about it in a long time.
Mm,
But I get it, and I guess as years go on, my opinions will change of this. The reason why I even went in the first place is because I'm just a Chinese boy from Essex, and I had literally no connections into the industry. So my way was just like if I just study filmmaking at uni, that will be my way to build up my skills, meet like-minded people, and even like network on a higher level with more industry people. Um, that being said, it's a lot of money to commit to that, and I feel like if you are going to do that, um, be driven and be passionate about what you want to do and try to get the most out of it, because I certainly did not get the most out of what I should have at my time. And
Yeah.
maybe that's part of wanting to live a kind of, you know, just enjoy uni life basically. And maybe I wasn't as committed to my studies as I should have been. But in retrospect, I do regret it a lot, that I probably should have tried a lot harder, especially given the resources I had, given the time I had, just given the fact that I was, being taught how to make films. I should have not taken it as much for granted. But I will say this: there are definitely other ways of getting into the industry. Um, there are so many ways you can learn these skills. I guess a lot of it begins with people don't know where to start. So people like me who don't know where to start would just go to university, because that's an easy way to start. You literally get taught what you need to learn, and maybe you can make the connections you need to make. But what I've realized now is that that's not necessarily true. There are so many ways you can learn how to make films. I mean, the internet is such a great resource of that now. There are so many filmmakers who are so willing to offer out information literally for free, or if you don't, or if it's not for free, maybe a lot of them offer advice and teach you things on Patreon or stuff like that. But still, it's all out there now, and probably all more inexpensive than university. Um, but that being said, it is not the worst thing. It's just I feel like it's definitely just what you make out of it. is where you'll get your most value. But now there's so many internships and there's so many schemes and entry level roles from all sorts of studios and production companies and different people who are willing to offer that out, where you don't even need a degree to even get to where you are. I think if anything, this is a field in which you really do not need a degree to
Yeah.
show your worth at all. And in all honesty, you could have, maybe I should have done a lot more at my time at university to make the most out of it. But I I'm also confident in saying that if I'd known better, I could have learned the exact same things I did at my time there than if I didn't go. But so what I'll say is, if you do go, just make the most out of it. It really will be worth it if you're going to be using that much time and money to commit to studying that subject. I think it'll be really worth it.
Yeah, I think that's a difficult decision for a lot of people. Like, especially, it definitely. I know it was for me. Like starting off, it's like, do you go to uni or do you go straight into the industry?
Mhm.
And I think, well, for me personally, it was like I will. I know COVID fucked up your uni experience, but for me,
Yes.
it fucked up my college experience. So I
Mhm.
kind of wanted to like extend my college somewhat and just get my. It's good for your portfolio, and I think not even in just a filmmaking sense. I feel like uni is something I would recommend to a lot of people, because I didn't have the best uni experience either. Like, I didn't love the uni, but I feel like the whole experience of going to uni, I never would have moved away from home and like started at Cineworld where I met you. And
Exactly.
like, if I didn't, even though I didn't meet you through uni, if I didn't go to uni, I would have met you. So I feel like stuff like that is just, it's very, I think there are benefits to going to uni, but then at the same time, like, you can meet so many great people through just working anyway. So
Mhm.
I think either or is a good decision. You just have to kind of work out what's right for you, you know.
Exactly, and just go with it and just commit. Definitely commit. Just don't be lazy and commit. Like,
Yeah.
it's a big choice to make. So anything can come up, like COVID. You know what I mean? That can kind of like ruin it all. But if you do go, commit. I'm actually curious to, because I don't think I've ever heard it from you guys. Like, why did all of you guys choose to go to uni?
Yeah, well, for me, it was why I just said, yeah, it's just like COVID fucked up my college experience, and I wanted to get a better portfolio. But yeah, I don't know about you. I don't actually know if I know why you guys went to uni.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it was partially COVID. I think COVID happened and I didn't really like consider every single option. Like, if I was to go back now, maybe I would have thought about internships and stuff, but uni was just kind of the natural next step.
Mm.
And I knew I wanted to do film and I knew I wanted to be in an environment for filmmakers. Um, so that's just kind of where I naturally lean to. Now, if I like could go back in time, um, like maybe I would have chosen an apprenticeship or something. But I think like what you're saying is, it rings true. It's like, it's less about where you are and what exactly you're doing, and it's more about just actually making films and growing your portfolio. And
Mhm.
that's the real thing I think I regret
Mm.
about uni, is I didn't do that as much as I think I should have. Um, but I find that really interesting that you have a similar experience in that way, where uni was a bit, you don't feel like you um did as much filmmaking in uni or use the resources from the uni or the networking or whatever as you could have. But introspectively, you're looking back at that and now doing that, and that's why I'm trying to do similar. So yeah, I think it was just a bit of a rush decision for me. Just, oh,
Yeah.
uni's the next step naturally, and it was a bit COVID. Like, oh, I don't
Mhm.
really want to go into a job right after COVID happened. It felt a bit weird.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
feels like the
Um,
safe option, like sticking in the
yeah,
education
exactly.
system.
Yeah,
I think I know Marcus's reason,
Well,
but it's quite a good
mine was
reason.
kind of like, well, mine. Okay, well, okay. So basically, I decided to join uni because I really wanted to be a YouTuber. So
Yeah.
like, I decided the best way of being a YouTuber was like, I need to be good at something like videography or something. I need to be good at my camera work and also like editing skills. So I decided to go to uni to do a film course so I could get better, like literally filming and editing.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I mean, I didn't really care like for films before this, but like ever since doing films, I feel like it's definitely made me care for films way more than like I even would have in the first place, and it's definitely taught me like way more than I actually like thought I was going to learn. Like I know how to properly handle like an Arri Alexa, which is like crazy.
That is insane.
So it's just like knowing, like with all my knowledge that I've got, I think uni was definitely worth it. But it's also like the the actual uni itself was like it was pretty mid. Like it was alright,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
it was pretty mid.
I think that's
But the
such a great
equipment
reason
was
to.
like an A plus. Like
Yeah.
the equipment just like made it all worth it in the end, even if the actual uni was.
Yeah, it's just the overall experience rather than what they actually taught you.
Yeah,
just
and like
learning
everyone
for
who
yourself.
I met, like if I didn't meet half the people I met, like I would
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have liked it at all. But I think
Yeah.
it's definitely all about the people you meet, and then like, yeah, I mean, I feel it just kind of bring me closer to Camo, I guess.
Which is the same with any course, really. You just meet great people going to uni, and
Yeah, and we also like kind of, it was nice because we also got to try like different roles. Obviously, I mainly stuck to camera and editing, so I didn't really like try screenwriting or directing.
Mm.
But for like you guys, obviously you kind of broadened out into screenwriting and directing. And Marcus, obviously you've done that mostly because you're on camera, like mainly. Like you've broadened out to directing and screenwriting.
yeah.
So I feel like it kind of like lets you try different roles and see what's your favorite and like what you can pursue in the future.
And
Mm.
Marcus, I'm wondering, as a going
Which
into the
Marcus?
actual set, Marcus Chan. This is where it gets really confusing.
I'm
Mr.
guessing
Chan,
most of
Mr.
the time you say, every time you say Marcus, I'm guessing you mean like Marcus Chan.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, going now to the set and going to the actual experience of filmmaking and being on set and experiencing the ebbs and flows of that, and your experience as a cinematographer. How has that changed you as a filmmaker in a more general sense, and how do you relate to other people on the set, and particularly the director? The one of the most interesting relationships I find is the relationship between a cinematographer and a director, because I'm kind of like out of it most of the time because I'm not really um like I've seen it a lot from a third person perspective because I've not really been in that directing position with a cinematographer that I'm working really closely with a lot of the time. And I've seen you do it with with Kieran and with Kim and other people. And I was wondering how that experience shapes your view of the set and what the negatives and positives that you've dealt with over the years has really taught you about filmmaking, and how has that worked?
Well, the negatives is that they don't tell you that basically being a filmmaker is basically being a problem solver. You need to have such great problem solving skills because nothing's ever going to go right on a set. At least 100% right. There's so many things that you're going to have to like solve on the fly and so forth. But being a cinematographer mainly, I've actually like you've kind of alluded to there, that I've worked with a few directors now, so I've managed to collaborate on different levels, work with different creatives, see how they all work, and I think one of the benefits of that, which has taught me, is that that's obviously just going to be a thing that's going to happen throughout the rest of hopefully my filmmaking career. Is that I'm going to work with all sorts of creatives, and learning how to do that, learning how to work with different people, how they work, how they see things is really important. I guess it's also just really important to know that the director is ultimately the most important person on set. I've even heard people like, the great Roger Deakins say something like that on his own podcast, because it is just true, they are the person controlling everything, seemingly, or should be, and they should be the one that's able to communicate everything to all the cast and crew. And if they can't, then they've got to trust the people next to them to be able to do that. Like, hopefully the cinematographer. So that's what I see that as a strong positive, and what I've learned there. It's just learning how to work with different people, learning how not even just work with, just how they see things creatively and being on the same page. It goes, before and beyond the production stage of things on set. You learn how to do that on pre-production. Hopefully, when you're storyboarding, shot listing, hopefully you'll get an idea of what the project is like. And honestly, I won't work on a project that I don't have kind of a passion for, or just won't
Mm.
enjoy. I tend to read these scripts that my friends write or these directors write, and I engage with them. I read them, and there is something I see creatively that I fuck with, basically. Um and because of that, it makes it easier for me personally to then, when we get to the stages of coming up with shots and stuff like that, it gets really cool and interesting to me, because it feels like I'm a part of it, or they want me to be a part of it, or they want me to enhance their vision. I think that's a really important thing, um, for that dynamic to work, is that you need to respect the director's vision mainly, because it's their work. It's their scripts mainly, if it's a writer director specifically. But even if it's not that, they're just the director. They are someone that's trying to bring this idea to life out, through all facets of how you need to make a film. And but I also think in return, it's really important to feel my own personal worth. On working on the project as a cinematographer, like that I am contributing to it in ways that feel fulfilling to me as well. I want to feel like that I am adding to the vision, but it is their vision ultimately. Like, I have worked with so many different directors. I've worked on so many different styles now as I've begun, of cinematography. Um, but every single one have been such a fruitful experience, because um, I'm learning how to work with people, and it's pushing me to want to learn the skill sets needed to bring their visions to life. It's a lot easier to bring your own vision to life, because you maybe see it just really clearly in your own head. But when it's someone else's, you have to communicate with them so well. You have to be so in sync with them. And I feel like maybe it's easier for me to bring my own visions to life, because maybe I already have predisposed ideas of how I want that to be achieved, or how I can achieve that. But when a director comes up to me and it's just straight up telling me these random shots that I've never heard of before, or like not even heard of before, but like I would have never thought of before, I have to all of a sudden like really quickly think of ways I can execute that. And I think that's a really cool process for myself. Uh, and I just love it. I absolutely love it. And you need this relationship to work as well. Your film is never going to work if if you don't have a good
Yeah.
professional and honestly personal relationship, in my opinion, with a director. It's never going to work if you're not in sync in any form. If you're butting heads, in terms of creatively, but also if you just can't work together well, if you can't communicate together well. I think one of the strongest things we've learned together was that I think one of our first, I guess, most enjoyable sets we ever worked on together was for Kim's film, which was A Cup of Tea, right?
Yeah.
Which
Cup of tea.
which
Yeah.
all of us here worked on, and
Yeah.
I think we all felt it on set how good it was to work with one another. And there was some levels of problem solving that needed to happen on that set, but it was just, I think we all felt like we were on the same page. Kim had such a great vision for the film and communicated it really well. We all liked the script, you know what I mean. So then when it all came down to it, we just realized what we wanted to do and what we were achieving it for. I guess it's just this idea of like galvanizing together for this vision is really important.
Yeah.
Because without that, then no one's going to feel passionate about it, and then you're going to feel the laziness, you're going to feel um, the kind of sloppiness to it all, and that's when you get like teetering ideas of like communication and the vision getting lost, you know what I mean. And I just think, yeah, so that's just something I really want to stress, that it is really important to have strong relationships, but it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As well, in
Um.
the space we're in at the moment, like a lot of our films we've done have been with friends, because that's all we really have been able to. But it would be really interesting to see like how that changes when we get further into this and we end up working with
Yeah.
people we don't know as well. We don't have, and how those relationships, or like the relationships that aren't as strong as like the ones we had on Cup of Tea, kind of affect our work. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. I want to ask a follow up question to what you just said, Marcus, and what Kieran just said as well. And but I think you've basically already answered it. But I'm wondering, in the future, as your career kind of advances and moves on, do you see yourself as more a director who keeps to their same group, relatively speaking,
Mm.
likes the same people around them, like someone like I guess Tarantino very much keeps his same actors. He knows how to work with them. He keeps similar company around behind the scene as well. A lot of directors have their cinematographer that they go to. You could probably have better examples than that
Mhm.
than I can come up with right now. Or do you see yourself as someone who can just kind of go into it more like a job even and just get down, do your job and leave? And I think you said it because you really value the personal relationship. I'm guessing it's going to be the former, but I'm wondering how you view yourself and how comfortable you would feel in a situation where it's less um uh there's less of a personal relationship and it's more a like colleague situation. And have you ever experienced that? And if so, how was that different to the projects that I've seen you do, where it has been like with Kim's film, where we did just all work together and everyone knew each other quite well before we did that and everything?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I probably alluded to it a bit already, but it's definitely the former, like you said, and what I want ideally. I think that's the best way to work in this field. It's, in my opinion, the most pure way to be able to work in this field. To be able to work with the people that um, you get along with, that are all creatively in sync. It's just really cool to be able to do that. But that being said, I am understanding that is only kind of, what's the word, that is only privileged to the most esteemed filmmakers. It's
Mm.
they get to be more auteur like and
Yeah.
have the outlet and the resources to be able to have the people they want at all times. And I realized that probably starting off, I'm probably going to be at the bottom of the barrel, so I'll have no say in what happens whatsoever. And I guess I am willing um, to kind of work through that for as long as I need to have the mindset to be able to work in that kind of environment. Um, Even though I've created, most of these sets, pretty much all of these sets I've worked on have just been with kind of more personal people. Even then, I am trying to work on communication and the interpersonalness of what it's like to be on set. Not just the fact that we're just a bunch of friends working on films. I do want to work on like the professionalism needed, that will carry me forward, as we keep going and going and going. And I think it's going to be really important, especially when you're first starting out, and like you said, you're going to just be slapped onto random projects, hopefully, that you're willing to
Yeah.
accept for your own skills, portfolio, just developing your networking and stuff like that. And I'd like to think for myself personally that I'm never going to compromise myself as a person as I'm doing that, but I am learning the necessary things, um, to be, I don't know, just to be a cool person to work with on set, I
Yeah.
guess. That people want to work with me, that I'm that good level of professional, but also uh, just hopefully a cool, casual person that you
Yeah.
can kind of just communicate to on any kind of level. But yes, obviously, in an ideal world, I'd love to work with the same collaborators as the people I respect now. And to be honest, that will be my ultimate goal to keep going forward. I wanna, if any of us make it, I'd like to think that, even beyond this podcast right now, I'd like to think that we all want to bring each other up as well. In
Yeah,
any level.
Oh,
that
obviously.
is that's the dream, honestly. Like
Yeah.
one of us directors like making it and then bringing everyone else with them.
Exactly, and that happens a lot of times as well. I think that
Yeah.
is one of the ways in which people do make it, is that
And why,
they.
boys,
Yeah.
I've got us.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, Marcus is the one.
I was joking.
Marcus is definitely
I,
the
gue-
one. Uh,
I guess it's a really weird thing with filmmaking where you can either, like, the only two ways you get to kind of completely control who you work with and how you work is if you're at the very, very bottom of where we are, or the like very,
Yeah.
very top. There is that like in between bit where it will probably feel like a lot more like a job than it does right now.
Mm.
Um, but yeah,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to ask as well is a big thing about this podcast is we're kind of talking about like what we're doing to get into the industry and stuff, and like how we're progressing in our careers. And like you said before, one of the hardest points is to like know where to start when getting one of those kind of jobs. And I just want to know if there's anything you've been looking at, anything you've been doing to try and like actually get started in the industry, because I know none of us currently are working in the film industry properly. So I didn't know what if you have any specific plans or anything you're working on towards like and to progress in your career.
Yeah, definitely. I guess I'm at a weird, awkward stage now in that regard because I think when I graduated university, I knew for a fact that my portfolio, like, I've only had student films to show for it, and I really needed to work on my portfolio. And that was about, I guess that was 2.5 years ago now when I graduated. So I instantly knew that I couldn't do anything with that yet. So definitely work on my craft and work on my portfolio. Very two important things. And, obviously, if you work on those two things, there's going to be a nice correlation of your projects hopefully being worthy of being on your portfolio and being shown, especially if you're working your craft more and more. So that's what I instantly knew. And I kind of gave myself a little light goal of, get like 10 projects under your portfolio that you're proud of. And then you can start entertaining the idea of going into the industry. And yeah, that was 2.5 years ago. And I think since then I am on like, I think I am on like 9 now.
Nice. One more film then.
Yeah, I think I'm on
when you're
9. I need to refresh it in my head. But I think I'm on 9 post uni that I've worked on now. And
So you're nearly at 10.
yes, I'm
Nearly
nearly
there.
at 10. Yes,
I
exactly.
think we're in a bit of a dry spell right now, but I feel like there's a lot of upcoming projects that people
Oh, yeah,
have in the
100%.
works,
Yeah,
as
well,
well
it
as
takes
myself.
time, don't worry. I mean,
And us.
I got
Exactly.
Pedro's one, obviously.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, exactly. There's plenty
Same.
more. There's plenty more. And
What
at the
are
end
you
of the
doing?
day,
Marcus, are you working on Pedro's one?
I haven't been. Yeah, no, not yet.
Wait,
I haven't been.
what are you
to
doing, Marcus?
discussing.
Huh?
What are you doing?
DOP?
You're DOP
No,
in it? No,
Your DOP in Pedro.
no, you're not, because I know who's DOP in it. I was gonna say,
Guys,
I'm a camera trainee. I
I'm
was
second AC.
Oh, okay.
driving to Liverpool.
You're
1
second
second.
AC.
Yeah, I'm second AC, yeah.
I'm camera trainee, so I think I'm basically like a third AC.
You're basically my bitch.
Yeah, basically.
Well, nah, Jake, you're like the DOP. We're both the DOP's bitch, so.
Yeah.
But I
That's
mean,
one way to put it.
nah, Marcus, I was going to ask you a question of, like, obviously I know you're mainly a DOP, so, like, is there any sort of filming techniques that you, like, I'd say, how do you say it, like, is your template to a DOP in? Like, have you got any nice, like, cinematic techniques that you try?
That's
If
an
that makes
interesting
sense.
question. Yeah. Gosh. I'm still trying to figure it out. I think I'm in emotions of learning everything. So
No, I
I'm
get that. I feel like you're trying to find your own kind of, like, technique to filming.
literally. Yeah, pretty much. I think I've been in the lucky position of working with different directors who kind of all have kind of different styles. So I've been given the freedom to actually just branch out what I
Nice,
need
bro.
to learn. Yeah, different styles I need to work on. So it's actually helped me just explore different creative things. And
No, I get
although I haven't really found a true voice yet, I do think it's all coming together to help me understand what I do and don't like, especially in the lighting department. I've learned a
I
lot.
feel like
in
you're
that
just,
regard.
you're experimenting, I feel like that's important as a DOP.
Pretty much. I think but like in terms of pre-production, I definitely do have a certain workflow I like working with, which is obviously coming up with storyboards.
Yeah.
Short listing is really important. I think
Yeah,
I
I
helps
think-
you come up with a
no,
short
you
listing
did.
template.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
did.
you did.
My shot list was sick after that because I showed my teacher.
Everyone was actually complimenting your
That's
shot
what I mean.
list
Like
after
I showed my
Because of
teacher, and
that.
she was like, "Yeah, you don't even need to do this much. Like this is crazy."
Yeah.
She was like,
I don't agree with that
Well,
at
to
all.
be honest
She's-
though, I think she said that like she doesn't normally go into that much detail when it comes to a shot list, but like everyone's different, and she like really likes the idea of me doing like the detailed shot list. But to be honest, I do think it helps massively, like having a
100%
detailed
does.
shot list, especially for Hello and Goodbye, because like that was obviously like customized to my template, and it was just like, yeah, I mean it was nuts, but it like just works so well.
Yeah, as long as it's organized nicely, at the end of the day, more information is
Definitely worth it.
way more important than less.
Yeah,
Especially
you
when
need to be planned. Basically, like it really, really needs to be planned. That's what I've
yeah,
learned from filmmaking.
exactly, and it's also like it's not even just for your own sake as well; it's for other people's sake. You know, like the director and
Yeah, to
other
know what
forms of
they're doing.
collaborators on the project need to
Shooting schedule.
understand. Need to understand what your vision is, what your workflow is, any details that you include in your shot list that might be beneficial to other people on the project. You know, it's not, but
No,
it is.
true.
You're right. It's very important for your own self to to be
Yeah,
as
no, I
well
think
planned.
I do agree. I think it's actually more important almost for the other people as well because it just means everyone's on the same page. They all know what like
Exactly.
you're gonna be shooting, and like yeah, no, it's very helpful, definitely.
Yeah, I don't agree with that teacher. I just think she's being lazy.
Yeah,
I've got a question for both of the Marcuses. Obviously, Mr. Chan, you work at a camera rental company and you know a lot about cameras. And I've had a lot of people ask me recently, and I know a lot of people are looking into in the stage we're currently at. What's the best camera to buy in like our position? If you're working on a budget
can
and you want to
I?
get your first camera, what would you guys
I'll
recommend?
say a camera first, but I think Marcus will
I know
probably know like a better
I know
answer.
neither of you have like a proper like camera right now, so I'm sure you're doing a lot of research or like
Well,
looking at a specific camera. But
I'd say personally what I want to get and what I've researched into, and I do think is probably one of the best cameras to get as like a videographer, and it's the Sony AS7 III. Uh,
mm,
I just personally
that's the
think
one we did. That's the one we were talking about the other
I
day. We
just
were talking about
that's
that
what I
and
mean. I
the
just
Black
personally
Magic.
think for price
Yeah.
range and everything and like performance, I just think that is a solid camera to have. Like you can just get a lot of filmmaking done with that. But it also really depends on your budget, to be honest with you. Like it,
Yeah.
if you want to go pricey, then you could probably invest in a better camera. But like I'd say a good star camera would be the Sony AS7 III. But obviously, I think I want to know what Marcus would say. I don't actually know what he'd say.
Yeah, the professional.
I mean,
No,
he
no,
works with
that's
cameras, so I don't know like the best of the best.
Yeah.
From
that
what
is
I've
a
seen.
great choice. I wouldn't even say that's the budget option. That's quite a high end camera because it's
Well,
the eight
yeah. But I mean, like, if I could save, that's what I would want to get.
100%. I would
Yeah.
also
I
agree
guess
with
it's a
that.
good starter camera, but you have to save for it.
I feel like a star camera is kind of hard because it's like, I don't know. I mean, I would say I'd want to spend for a star camera would be like $2,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree
But like,
because
Like
you kind of need a really good one, or not a really good camera, but like it will benefit you if you save for that little longer and get like the
yes,
proper good
yeah, especially
solid
for
camera.
what we want to use.
Yeah,
it for.
like
yes, I
And
I
agree.
would say it's worth saving for the Sony AS7 instead of like
yeah,
getting a camera that's like a little bit cheaper just because you have the
Mhm.
money then. Like if you can
Yeah,
wait and get a better camera, it'll be so much more worth it in the meantime.
yeah.
You'll get
yeah.
so
Well, I
much
had
better
Yeah.
production from it. Personally.
I had someone message me the other day asking me for advice on cameras, even though I'm not a camera person. I didn't really know what to tell him, but
Yeah.
he was saying that he was thinking of getting like as his first camera, like Blackmagic Pocket.
Yeah.
To be fair, that
4K,
Blackmagic is
which is the
literally
other one I know you.
that's what I was
Marcus,
looking
we
at,
talked
but then
about
I
in the other
kind of
episode.
got swayed because like it is a sick camera. Don't get me wrong, I'd still want it because I love the Blackmagic. I think it's just so
Yeah,
sick and it gives really good quality. But
yeah,
I do think that it's just because it can't take photos, you're kind of limited a little bit. So that's why I think
okay.
Sony's kind of like I prefer to use the Sony A7 just because there's a little bit more customization to what you can use with it.
That's fair. That's fair.
Like it's perfect for
Yeah.
videography, but like if you ever need it to do, like I want a camera so I can do freelance work. So if I can do photography as well, I know the Sony A7 could back it up.
Mm.
But
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know if that's different in
Yeah.
Marcus's opinion. But
Well, but yeah, what about you, Marcus?
Yeah.
What would be
I'd
your
definitely say the
advice?
Blackmagic Pockets are a great budget option for cine-centric cameras. They're just really for its price range, they're so accessible. They're great.
It's got a nice film look to it as
Exactly.
well.
They've got great footage, and I really do like its workflow, especially because it's paired with,
oh, Da
the
Vinci.
same. Yeah, exactly, Da Vinci. You know, I
Mm.
mean, they're the same production company
That is actually
company
really,
that works
really
over
helpful.
it.
Yeah.
So it's
I
really
think if I
cool.
did get a Blackmagic, I'd have to switch
Having
to
like an
DaVinci
Yeah,
editing
camera
program
first.
that's literally linked with your camera is like
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
genuinely it makes
Yeah,
it so much nicer to work with.
But that I'd say that as a budget option. Not that it's bad, but like the only reason I say that is because the Sony A7 IV specifically is great in terms of being a versatile camera in terms of both photography and videography, and it's really great for being future proof. It's full frame, and like Marcus was saying about the Sony A7 S3, that's even a little bit more of an upgrade to that one, but it's just the S basically makes it's basically Sony's more video centric line, and I think they've got the R series which is more of their photography centric line. So that's even better for video. Those are great kind of good budget options for the Sony line. And if you want to take it even a step further, there's the Sony FX3, which is literally
Yeah,
which is
that's another.
literally yeah, exactly.
That's the other one we talked about on a couple episodes
Yeah,
ago.
which
Yeah.
is
That is a
literally
really good
Sony's
camera. Amazing.
Sony's like budget friendly, accessible cinema line camera, and it's the same
Still
camera.
very expensive.
It
though.
is expensive.
But
It's around
Sony's
that like
Prodigy.
3.5 grand range.
But to get it like proper decked out and like to
Yeah,
like what
for
you would
sure.
need
Well,
It'd
to
be
be
more like
honest, the
4
camera
grand.
is expensive, but it's
5
it's
grand.
just mainly the kit that's more expensive. Like
Yeah.
the kit itself is so expensive sometimes to get to get enough kit to keep you going for like a bunch of like just doing film jobs in general. Like
Yeah.
you still need to spend a lot of money. Like I'd say I would happily I'll be able to get everything I need like with 5 grand, I reckon.
Yeah,
That might be
makes
too much
sense.
to be fair, but like
No, that makes around.
that's
the
probably
same
like
percent.
5 grand to get like everything, like a gimbal, batteries,
Yeah.
mic, stuff like that.
That's what Billy said. I think he said it would be like 5
Yeah,
grand.
yeah, that's what I'm like gonna estimate, especially for lenses as
Yeah.
well. Lenses are expensive.
Nice. Yeah, I know that'll be. I mean, I want the podcast to be like a place where people can get advice from,
Yeah.
from like when they're in the same level we're at. So I feel like that'd be a good question to. A lot of people, I know a lot of people do wonder that, and a lot of people in the same position where they're looking. I'm not even a camera guy, and I'm looking into the same thing just because it'll be the most useful thing right now for doing like little freelance jobs and
Cool.
whenever we need a camera for a film. Yeah.
Yeah.
But does anyone have any last? Because we're coming up to an hour, and I want to go into talking about films before we end the episode, like favorite films and stuff. But does anyone have a last filmmaking question to ask Marcus? Or
I think I've said my questions, to be honest.
I think the last one, and I guess this can kind of go into what you want to finish the episode off with, but the last one would be what has been your most important, negative or positive, and your most important and monumentous like experience on set or to do with making a film that has really formed your whole perception of filmmaking going forward. And when at that stage of filmmaking did it come? Was it really early on, or has it been more recently? And how has that shaped you as a filmmaker, do you think, going forward?
Oh man, great question. I think
So I just dumped a load. Like that's a lot of stuff.
but that is a really great question. What I'll say is working on. I haven't really talked about them much, but working on all the projects I worked on before university was so much fun. When I was doing it all myself, basically, where I was writing, directing, cinematographer, sound, even at that point, editing. I was literally doing it all, and that is obviously very unrealistic going forward, but it was just so much fun to do it, and realized that I did enjoy it. It's the most important part, and that was really cool. Going into university, the second year film in which I directed, which I didn't really love in the end, was a really important experience as a negative one, realizing that because weirdly enough, I thought it was going decently well, and then it wasn't until a sort of final project that I realized that it wasn't so great after all. And even when I look back on the experience, it wasn't the greatest filmmaking experience either. And that was really important for me to understand what I necessarily don't like. And personally, the most important part, what I learned, was that I realized what I did wrong and what I needed to improve on. And maybe part of that was just realizing maybe I just don't want to be a director, but also just other aspects of like what it takes to communicate, especially on a creative level, is really really important. And I guess that was something I learned going forward and what I needed to improve on. Uh, the next most important one is Red Envelope, like we've talked about, because that was the first time I was so in sync with all the creators on that. I'm gonna shout out to Liberty, Geo, and Villy for that one. We were also driven, also passionate about it, and it was just so infectious to me that it was finally the first experience in which I truly, truly, truly had an amazing time. Don't get me wrong, was probably the most stressful film I've worked on to this date. It was so stressful. Like I said, we did not have the budget to make the film we wanted to make realistically. We didn't have the time to make the film we wanted to make, but I just had so much fun by the end of it. Even though I was so tired and stressed and worn out, I loved that experience and I loved everybody I worked on with, and it was just so great. And honestly, and not because you guys are here, the next most important one was A Cup of Tea. Um, in terms of productions and films, because that was the first time it felt so seamless and how cool and easy it can be to work with your friends and people who you really fuck with basically on a film. And I just thoroughly enjoyed my experience on that, and it was one of the easiest sets I've ever been on. Doesn't mean it wasn't supposed, it wasn't hard in some ways, it wasn't stressful in some ways, but I just really enjoyed working with everybody. Everybody seemed like they were having such a great time, even when it got long or tiring, and it seemed like everybody was committed because I think, yeah, mainly partly because Kim had such a strong vision and she communicated really well with us, and she just ran the set really well, and I think everybody was just on board and could feel that infectious environment. And I guess that was the kind of first. I think that was the first film I worked on after university. So I guess that showed me a lot on what it's like post university. A lot of these projects and these things I worked on was all in a school based system, and that was the first one in which it wasn't. I mean, it was for you guys, but it wasn't for me. And
Yeah. That was a great.
and
that
you
was a
guys
great
got
step.
to
No,
choose. You guys got
Only the film. The film needs to be
exactly.
finished.
You guys got
Marcus.
to choose a lot of people, external people who weren't on the course to work on that. So it did really feel like a project in which people were trying to like come together and work on something really well. And I guess if it wasn't really for that film, I guess I would have not seen how well things could have run from these last 2 years. So yeah, those are kind of the
Yeah.
important ones for me.
Nice. Well, we are over an hour now, but we like to finish our episodes by talking about films,
Yes.
and I think that's an important thing. We covered a little bit at the beginning, but that was more your influences. But would you like to give us some of your favorite films of all time? 'Cause I know you love talking about films.
Okay, just hit me with that one. Like I
Yeah.
don't have my IMDb or Letterboxd out right now, so you put me on the spot. But at the top of my head, yeah, it's The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I think different people will have varying levels of how much they love that film, but I really do.
I love that.
Yeah, I know Kieran loves that film. I don't know about Luke and Marcus.
That was one of the things I think we became friends over. Was our joint love of
Yeah,
Pepsi
exactly.
Waffle.
I just love a good emotional film, to be honest, and I think it's that one is
Good.
truly quite important in terms of what it's trying to say about mental health. I think it's it's just truly quite brilliant on what it's trying to do, especially in youth culture, what it's trying to address with mental health. And I guess at that point, I hadn't really seen the film do it quite like that yet. So I think it's quite an important film.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. We
Nice.
talk about a lot of films that we love.
Yeah, or it could just be a film you've seen recently that you think was good, or even TV shows. We talk about TV shows a lot at the end as well. We talked about last episode. We talked about Dexter, which I hadn't seen, and
Yes.
now you guys on the episode convinced me to watch it, and I'm now on season 5. So
Yes.
I've been enjoying that.
Yes, Dexter is quite a great, fun little ride for sure. It's a flawed show,
Yeah.
but it's very, very enjoyable. It's just a very fun concept that Was it? What they is it? Not dermatologist, is he? What's it? Yeah.
No, blood
Oh,
spatter
That's
analyst,
it. A
forensic.
That's it. A forensic blood splatter
Forensic,
analyst
yeah,
who
yeah.
just so happens to be a serial killer with a moral compass on who he murders, but not because he has any form of empathy. In fact, he lacks that completely. So it's just kind of
Yeah.
like a really fun tagline TV show, basically.
Yeah. Have you got any favorite TV shows that you would also
Oh,
want to?
100%. I'll skip over the obvious one, which is Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Because everybody should watch Breaking Bad, but I guess
Breaking Bad is one of the best TV
it
shows. I
is.
wouldn't say it's my favorite, but I like if I named like the best TV show of all time, Breaking Bad
Yeah.
just has to be on the
Yeah,
list.
I'll throw a few out there. The Wire. People need to watch The Wire.
That might be next.
Yeah,
for me, to be honest.
people over the years it's not getting as much buzz because I think it's just a slightly older show, but my god, is that show brilliant. What I say most about it more than anything is that it is by far the best TV show to represent both the criminals and the police force equally well. It is by far the one that gives the most level of care in the writing and characterization to both fields, and glorifies and demonizes both sides just as well in the right aspects, which I respect so much, because I think a lot of shows glorify the police force highly, and this is definitely not one of those shows. And not only that, shows the other side just as well represented, and it truly is one of those best shows because of that. Succession, if we're on that HBO grind, I
Yeah,
know Luke loves that show.
yeah.
Succession is brilliant. I don't even know. It's just so
I think
funny.
it's like it's one of the few shows that's reached the same heights as like Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad of
Yeah.
recent years.
100%.
Yeah.
We're all Sunny fans here. We're
All Sunny
it's
fans.
all-
That's
so it's
another
all
one.
sunny. It's always sunny in Philadelphia. My gosh, I
I
love
think
that show.
I could genuinely. I think that show is probably one of the main reasons me and Luke became friends, bro.
Yeah, I would say so.
That was one of the main things we talked about, like
Yeah.
when we met each other, and probably same with me and you, Marcus.
Yeah.
A question that Marcus asked us on the first episode, which I'd be interested to see your answer to, is he asked us out of any TV show or film that exists, like what one would you name as like would have been your dream film or show to work on? Like if you could have worked on any TV show or film in existence, what film or show would that have been?
Gosh.
It's kind of a hard question, but that's what Marcus threw us at the very end of the first
Oh,
episode.
With just one.
Yeah, just one.
Oh my fucking god. Oh gosh.
This is what Marcus did to us in the first episode, and me and Luke had to think about it.
Look, you don't have to
Sorry.
answer it. I was just wanting to ask a question.
I have answers
Well,
in
no,
my
you
head
have to
already.
answer.
Yeah, I have answers
asked
in my head
this time,
already,
so-
but it's I'm just trying to think if there's just a better answer than that. I don't want to be too hasty with it, but oh gosh, there's so many choices, so many choices. And in a sense, would it be like me as the cinematographer? Would it be like that?
I think kind of in whatever you would prefer to do.
Oh gosh.
I think I said either Sunny for writing, because like I don't know, the comedy and like it just seems like and acting just would have been one of the best shows to work on.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But then you could also go the other way and like a film like Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the ones that came into my head. Oh gosh. Oh gosh, my head is hurting.
Yeah, this is what Marcus did to us. So very...
Oh my gosh. Jesus, oh lordy! I think Everything Everywhere All at Once would have been a banging film to work on. It just has
100%.
all my sensibilities and what I love in a film. I am literally I am a westernized Chinese person. Not specifically in America, but in England. But still, the amount of levels I related to that film thematically to its core, yeah, I related so much. And not only that, it just so happens to be one of the most creative, fun multiverse films of all time. So just to lay that on top of it all, being
it was originally meant to be about Jackie Chan.
It was meant to be about Jackie Chan. Yes,
yeah, which is crazy what it turned into after that.
Literally,
I think it's I would have loved to see the Jackie Chan multiverse film, but I think what we got is just so much.
Yeah, we
more
just got one of the
important.
greatest Chinese transnational family dramas that just so happens to be a comedy, action, multiverse, science fiction, slapstick, like extravaganza, you know, fantasy.
Yeah. The film's so fun and so emotional that I would agree that it would have been like one of the coolest films to work on.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe that one.
But yeah, and another thing that Marcus asked us at the very end, which I also think is an interesting question that I would want your opinion on, is like how would you feel about like the whole what we talked about a lot is like film versus TV. Like if you could only work in one, how would you feel about like working? I know you're probably like swaying more to the way more to the film side, but how would you feel about working in TV versus working in film?
Yeah. The thing is, yeah, I think I'd way prefer to work in film. But if I had the opportunity to ever work on a TV show, I definitely would. I guess if you're asking more about how I'd feel about working in both,
Yeah.
it depends what I would be doing. But if it's cinematography, I think it would be a kind of cool transition to do that. You know, I think for you guys, you're
Yeah.
probably thinking more as writers, right? Where your
Yeah,
sensibilities
Yeah.
as writers is vastly different when you have to write episodic. You have to think about long term.
yeah.
You have,
And it's so much better to like for the characters as well,
Yeah.
because characters are one of the
Yeah.
best things to write. Like you get so much development out of
exactly, and
them.
just progressing it.
TV
Whereas
shows.
me, as a cinematographer, it would feel quite similar still, right? I think I've
Yeah.
actually heard in some regards because TV, the director is not the most important person on set, you know, because you get a
Mm.
bunch of new directors, right? For sometimes,
TV,
you
yeah.
can have so many
Yeah.
different levels of directing. I've
That's
actually
true.
heard. I forgot where I heard it from. I think maybe even from the Roger Deakins podcast, talking to a cinematographer. That the cinematographer is, especially if it's consistent across the whole show, is more
Really?
important to the visual element than
Mm.
the director is.
Yeah.
To keep
I guess it depends
That's
on what kind of
interesting.
TV
Yeah.
show as well. But
exactly.
I would have thought like because usually don't they have like they have different directors, but they'll have like one showrunner.
Yeah. The showrunner is the director
Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
of the TV realm. But that'd be my
Yeah.
approach. But whereas film, it's just that I just love that idea. I think the reason why I just prefer film over TV in general, personally, not that I don't love TV. Believe me, I've binge watched and watched enough TV in
Yeah.
my lifetime.
Yeah.
It's not that I
Yeah.
don't neglect it. It's just that for me personally, I just like the idea that you just make one film and then you can just tell your whole story from start to finish.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
I think a lot of politics might get in the way of being able to finish a TV show story, you know, i.e.,
True.
being
Yeah.
cancelled, actors leaving, contractual things,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just
Well, that can still affect films, but you get it's way worse on TV
yeah,
shows.
you know, people can come
Or
and
you can
go.
finish a film and then have it written off for tax
Yeah,
reasons.
and I think for me personally, I just like the idea of knowing this story from beginning to end, rather than
Mm.
Yeah.
you know, some people might start one season of a show and have no clue how they're gonna end it, you know, and they just keep
Yeah.
going and going and going and going and just seeing where it goes. But that's also a cool
Yeah.
creative process as well. But I think for me, I just like the idea of encapsulating everything into one and working on that.
Yeah. That's fair. I kind of knew you would say that, to be fair,
Mhm.
but I wanted to hear. I was interested to hear your opinion on what it'd be like to work in TV.
Yeah, I definitely would work on
I've
TV.
Yeah. Well,
I have one last question, if that's okay.
yeah.
I,
Let's
I,
go with one more question
Yeah.
because we've gone on longer than
yeah, we were a bit.
Usually what we do is we get to an hour and we're just like okay, we should end this, and then Marcus will ask another question that will have us
Yeah.
laughing for another 30 minutes.
No, I won't do it this time. I won't do that.
like at the end
Okay.
of the last episode, he's like, "What's your opinion on them remaking Harry Potter?" And then we talked
Yeah.
about like half an hour.
Oh gosh, yeah, don't get me started on that one.
yeah.
Yeah.
But what's your question?
Yeah, I have one last question, and this is a good, I think, rounding out question. It's not that long for Marcus to answer, but I feel like the film industry at the moment is a pretty, I guess, nihilistic place. There's not much to be excited for the future with, AI and big blockbusters. But I want to ask you: is there one thing, if it's even a upcoming film or some industry news that has excited you recently, one thing that's kind of sparked your um uh ability in kind of having hope for the future of the film industry, one thing that you're looking forward in the not too distant future of the film industry, going forward, and you think you can use or it can inspire you in the future of your career?
Yeah, great question. Great question. Um, Damn,
That's a hard
that is a
question.
hard
Yeah.
question.
I don't know.
I
That would make my brain go.
I think genuinely being surrounded by the creatives I have around me just seem that
Mm.
everybody else around me still wants to do this, regardless of, like you said,
Yeah.
there's
Good answer.
maybe more nihilistic reasons to not be as happy of where the industry is going on. Like you said, with AI, with blockbusters, I'll add streaming services to that as well, and why we should be
Yeah.
a bit more
Yeah.
pessimistic.
100%.
But um, I think just genuinely being surrounded by the great people who
Yeah.
all have this same pure mindset I've always had with how filmmaking should be, in that we want to do it together. We want to do it for the love of it and not for commercial reasons and stuff like that. And I guess that in an extension of that, personally for me, that's on like a just kind of what I'm surrounded with. But on a final note, just on the personal note, for me, being a Chinese creative, I've really loved, and not only being a Chinese creative, being someone who was born and raised in England as well, I have seen so many wonderful projects being greenlit
100%.
and kickstarted. Like we've talked about, like Everything Ever All at Once, where um, this transnational representation of westernized Asian people have been more and more on the rise, slowly but surely. You know, it's not like it's never not existed from like the 80s onwards, but it's been a long time coming, in my opinion, especially
Some of the best films of every year, I think, recently have been
Mhm.
like I really like Diddy this
Yeah, I
year,
really want to
which
watch
is
that
more like
actually.
coming of age.
Exactly, and you know, and I think
So,
that goes.
Past Lives
Yeah,
as
oh my
well.
days! I literally just rewatched that
Incredible.
today.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
literally my point. Is that like what why that um why that makes me really proud is because yeah, because of the obvious personal thing of like that is my culture, but what it says more to me is that it goes beyond film culture. You know, at the end of the day, you know, Asian migration has been a thing since like World War II onwards. You know, like on a kind of
Yeah.
more global scale, it's a representation of culture in general. It might be a really niche culture to the Western world, but it is a representation of culture and history and context. And I think that's what ultimately films are kind of time bottles of that in some sort of way. Re- Even if there are like period pieces of or whatever or science fiction stuff, I do really think they're a reflection of those things. And I think so being able to see that is just brings me a little bit of hope that even though maybe
Yeah.
Hollywood is a big bad world, that the fact that these things are being more, I guess, being more offered the the right to actualize themselves creatively, um, brings me a lot of hope that that can happen in so many other facets. You know, beyond just my take on like these transnational Chinese Western films being made now.
Sure.
Like I feel like this can go beyond so many levels on why like levels of like casting the right race for your roles is really important. Why the people who work on these projects beyond the people that are the actors, you know, crew, writers,
100%.
directors, being able to represent these things, you know, beyond not even just race culture, like sexuality as well, right?
Yeah.
And so many other forms of cultural identity and personal identity. I think it's just a really important step to take, that you're giving power to the
Yeah.
people that need to represent these things. And it just shows a great evolution, in my opinion. And hopefully, as we keep going forward, that will just keep happening.
I think that's really, really important to say. I think,
That's a great answer.
yeah, as that is a great answer. And I think the diversity thing is really important to say, because in this current climate, a lot of the diversity talk is weirdly negative and just weird and right wing and whatever. So hearing a perspective of that, and I know from my own personal experience, also being from a slightly diverse or diverse background, it's really enlightening to see the other side of it, not just the kind of the nonsense online, and actually how it affects young creatives who are not of kind of a traditional filmmaking, kind of the standard of filmmaking background, getting their voices. And there's been such important steps made towards that recently.
For sure, for sure. I completely agree. It's just important to focus on the good changes, the good evolutions. If we're all just
Definitely, yeah.
pessimistic and negative and just can't be happy about the good improvements of what's happening in the industry, then we're always just going to be like a bunch of just sad, sorry,
Yeah.
miserable gits, basically. Like we should we should praise the positive. There's enough there's
Yeah.
enough negative tabloids out there, and just news in general was quite negative. So let's just take the
Yeah.
time to appreciate that there is some growth and evolution, and it might still be a million miles away, but at least acknowledge that
Yeah.
it is changing. And hopefully if we do,
Yeah.
more people are going to be more on board with that. Even people not of the same context, will want to push that forward as well. So
Yeah, that's a really nice note to end the podcast on. I think it's a pretty, but well, unless anyone has any more questions, if Marcus has any, Marcus,
Yeah,
give a
Marcus,
last.
ask us what the meaning
Ask,
of life.
yeah, ask us a really.
I can't think of one. I actually can't.
All right, I guess we got to end the episode.
yeah,
then.
I would just like to say thank you for having me on. It's been an absolute
That's okay.
pleasure.
Thanks for
Thank you
coming
for
on,
that,
man. It's an
bro.
honor
Thanks
to
for
have
coming
you as our first guest.
Yeah, thank you for.
Hopefully,
I'm the
we'll
first.
have
Yes.
you on again. Yeah. Hopefully, we have you on again at some point.
100%, 100%.
Oh,
We
sure,
can,
sure.
yeah, we'll make this less formal. I won't be on the hot seat as much this probably next time.
Yeah,
but I'd
definitely.
love to be on just to enjoy the
Yeah.
space.
I mean, we did that for our first episode. Kind of talked about the same stuff, and then after that, we just ended up talking about films and kind of what we're up to.
Well, films just
Which will
more
be this.
interesting
I'm
to
sure will be the
talk
same
about.
thing about you. Yeah.
It's just like there's only so much we can talk about ourselves before we've talked about everything before like something big happens.
Literally.
So
Yeah.
we just have to talk about films.
It's great, yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, man. It was a good time talking to you.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on, guys, honestly.
And,
Awesome podcast.
and thank you, listener, for listening to
Yeah.
this all the way to the end. That was nice of you as well. So thank you. And listen to the next episode 6, which should be out in a week, hopefully.
Yep.
Another guest on maybe next time. I think that's what we're thinking.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye bye.